IVM.
Hi, I'm Utsav, a behavior researcher by training and a slow traveler by passion. Postcards from Nowhere is a travel podcast where I condense a decade of travel experiences and explore not just the where, but also the why and how to travel. My stories emerge from slow traveling the less explored parts of the world: Bosnia and Herzegovina, Armenia, Uzbekistan, and even China. At the end of each story, I give practical tips and new ideas about how to travel better. This week, we travel to Tamil Nadu and discover how Sangam landscapes shaped Tamil food.
That love came from my mom actually. Like, she is a voracious reader of books. So after her absence, the only thing pampered me is the books which she was using. Like, still I have those collections. We have a lot of books and literally like 300 to 400 books in my home, like boxes of books. And all books are something related to Tamil literature and the poems, like, which is very much older. Like, we have 5 major epics, Silappadigaram, Manimeghale, all those historical fictions and everything. So I had no chance to go anywhere to read something new. Like, I thought of going through it. Like, I said no. Like, when I read those books, it pampered me like her.
This is the voice of Anthony, who loves all things Tamil and Tamil literature. He also is the long-time producer of this show. But he isn't your average Tamil enthusiast, but someone who has read and thought extensively about Tamil culture, especially early Tamil literature from the Sangam period. But why exactly is that important, and why are we talking about it? Because it's almost impossible to imagine Tamil culture without Sangam literature. This literature was engraved on palm leaves and dates to the period between 300 BC and 300 AD. These classical works, composed as hymns, ballads, erotic verses and lyrics, are about kings, valor, wars, loyalty, gratitude, generosity and love. These poems, written in ancient Tamil, graphically describe life in South India under the Chera, Chola and Pandya dynasties. They eloquently portray an advanced civilization that prevailed in South India during the early centuries. But what is lesser known outside of Tamil Nadu is the impact this had on the food of the region. The Sangam landscape is the name given to a poetic device that was characteristic of love poetry in classical Tamil Sangam literature. The core of the device was the categorization of poems into different thinais or modes depending on the nature, location, mood, and type of relationship represented by the poem. Each thinai was closely associated with a particular landscape and imagery associated with that landscape. Its flowers, trees, wildlife, people, climate, and geography was woven into the poem, mostly to convey a mood associated with one aspect of a romantic relationship. Most of these were written by Jain and Buddhist monks who thrived in southern India much before the advent of Hinduism through the Aryan migration. If the connection between landscapes, love poetry, and food is not adding up, I wouldn't blame you. Here's Anthony explaining it.
The whole Tamil Nadu is divided into 5 major divisions based on the lands actually. We call it as Kurinji, Mullai, Marudam, Neidal, Palai. It will come from the top. Kurinji is like mountain and the region around mountains. And Mullai is like forest and the region around forest. And Marudam is like the cultivating land and the region around cultivating land. And then Neidal is like the seashore and the region around seashore. And Palai, like if we want to call it in English, like we should say it as a deserted region. But desert is not in the peninsular India, right? So Palai is something like on the days of summer, this Mullai and this forest land and the cultivating land will become Palai. Each land has their own cuisines, like their own way of eating foods, and everything was different to each of the land. But all was united as like Tamil speaking people.
Now visualize the map of Tamil Nadu and think of each of these regions as layers of the onion. At the core lies Kurinji, the mountainous region which makes up the western Ghats in Tamil Nadu. The people who lived here were primarily hunter-gatherers and foraged for wild honey. The soil was a mix of red and black alluvial soil with pebbles and stones. And the foods which grew in this soil supported the people: jackfruit, tubers, and foxtail millet, all of which are suited to hardy soils. In fact, bamboo rice or mungil arisi in Tamil cuisine comes from the Kurinchi region. It also gave name to the flower Neela Kurinchi, which blooms only for a few days once every 10 to 12 years, blanketing the slopes of the Western Ghats in radiant white and purple. Next come the dry, parched wastelands, Palai, which were characterized by soil in which little could grow. The people inhabiting this region were known as Einar, Maravar, and Kalivar, who were involved in waylaying, highway robbery, and soldiering. The region corresponds to the Tirunelveli district today, which is known for its hot climate with temperatures touching 45 degrees Celsius. Then came the Mullai, Marudam, and Neithal landscapes, and we'll have Anthony take us through it.
And then when you come right down like forests, the major work of forest people is like to cattle breeding. Like so all the milk products was majorly used there in their cuisines. And when you come for Marudam, like they were cultivating paddy, and those we call it as siridhaniyam, like it's millets. So kambu, thinai, kelvaragu, so ragi kind of things, right? All these things were majorly taking part in their cuisine. And when you go for the seashore, like a dry fish, and kallu was one of the major cuisine of the seashore people. Kallu is something like toddy, right? So that two different flavored toddies they'll be having. And dry fish, like different flavored dry fish, and all the fishes they were eating.
The Neithal region's inhabitants were known as Paradavar, Nulayar, and Umanar, whose occupations included fishing, coastal trade, pearl diving, and salt manufacturing. The settlements were known as Pakam or Pattinam, which were maritime trading ports. It gave rise to the modern name of Nagapattinam, the town on the coast of Tamil Nadu, known for a clutch of Hindu temples which became important pilgrimage sites. One of the most iconic foods which emerged from this region was fish podi, which we covered in episode 136, Podi, Jesus Christ and LTT. But there is one aspect of Tamil food which we cannot afford to ignore, one that links all the 5 Sangam landscapes.
The major link between all these things, right? Flesh and meat were celebrated like anything. And people, like even today, right? If you go to the southern parts of Tamil Nadu, the worship comes from Keda Vettadal. Keda Vettadal, it's like they'll be sacrificing a goat to the deity, like the ancestral deity, and they'll offer that goat to them. And then they cook all the parts of the goat from head to toe, and they'll be having a feast over there.
The early inhabitants of the south were overwhelmingly meat eaters. They ate meats of rams, deer, fowl, iguana, fish, crabs, and pigs, cooked with ghee and spices.
Another important food is like grilling meat, actually. So that is even like we tend to have that today, right? Like barbecues, grills and all, right? But grilling is like very old in texture. When people are in war situations, they dig a tunnel over there and they make fire, and they take like flesh pieces and they turn it over there in the heat and then eat. Like all these are mentioned over there in Tolkapiyam and Purunmozhi Kanjithurai. These are the literature pieces where you can get the major like cuisines, like what they were having. And when you go through all these things, right, all the modern foods what we have, right, it's totally like which is recreated from the olden foods what people were having. Like just the names are different. Beef is celebrated over there in the Kerala regions and all. But in Tamil Nadu, in the southern parts of Tamil Nadu, where you have a lot of temples and most of people turned vegetarians actually. But you have so many mentions over there in the literature pieces, people eating beef. And that too, they were celebrating beef like anything. So beef was there in that major cuisine. And after that, I said that religion division, right? After that particular Saivite, Vaishnavite and that Bhakti movement arises, after that particular thing, the casteism plays an important role over there in Tamil Nadu. And before that, people were divided according to their land. So in between the medieval period, only this caste particular thing comes inside. So after this caste got influenced over with the people, all these beef consumers are considered as the scheduled caste and low caste people.
There is archaeological evidence found at Neolithic and megalithic burials that prove the meat-eating habits of ancient Tamils. Lower Neolithic people were leading pastoral life heavily depending upon cattle and agriculture, tallying with the depiction of the Mullai region. Upper Neolithic people were practicing mixed farming, a combination of fishing through the hooks found, hunting through different hunting implements, charred bones showing roasting of meat, cut marks on the bones proving the extraction of marrow from them. They were also practicing gathering of deer, squirrel, tortoise and iguana, and domestication of animals such as cattle, sheep, pigs, fowl, partridge and quail. One of the key reasons why meat came to be seen as taboo is the origin of the Bhakti movement in Tamil Nadu. Since the 6th century AD, it gained prominence through the poems and teachings of Vaishnava Alavars and Shaiva Nayanmars before spreading northwards. It swept over east and north India from 15th century onwards, reaching its zenith between the 15th and 17th century AD. The Bhakti movement led to a devotional transformation of medieval Hindu society, wherein an ascetic monk-like lifestyle for moksha gave way to an individualistic loving relationship with a personally defined God. One of the key tenets of the Bhakti movement, borrowed from the scriptures, was a focus on vegetarianism. The Vaishnavites adopted a lacto-vegetarian diet, and even the Shaivites recommend ahimsa and thereby vegetarianism. And Brahmins are not the only vegetarians in the state. Saiva Pillais, land-owning devotees of Shiva, and Velalars, an agricultural community, also do not eat meat. In fact, the Tamil word for vegetarian is Saivam. As per the National Family Health Survey of 2019-2021, only 2.3% of people in Tamil Nadu are purely vegetarian. And while food habits may have evolved across Sangam landscapes, the preference for meat eating, which was prevalent across all of them, has largely remained unchanged. As we travel, we must remember that our food practices will almost always be first shaped by landscape and ecology, and only then by religion and caste. We must go back to one of the foundational aspects of Sangam literature, where each poem is a representation of moral ethics, which is based on the relationships with nature. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Utsav Memory on Twitter and YVTravel42 on Instagram.